Long day, huh?
Pretty long.
Good one, though. Nice at the beach. Fish was good.
Yeah. Good fish.
Calamari. Kids were good. Just falling around half the time.
Yeah, they're crazy. The crocodiles.
Take a big old flop in the playground, huh?
Yeah.
Big old thug like a sack of potatoes, huh?
Did you see him?
No, you told me. It was way up, huh?
Yeah. And everyone freaked out. I'm like...
Kids got to learn how to play. I remember when I was in the playground, I was always getting hurt, man. I'd go to the hospital and get stitches, and I was falling off the playground equipment all the time. I don't know what age it was, but it seemed like I was getting stitches here and here and here. I was getting at the hospital all the time for falling on my face.
Where was that?
California.
Yeah. That's where you grew up?
Yeah. It was interesting times in the days. It was a small town, and it's kind of weird. I mean, it seemed like there was Mexicans, blacks, and whites. And I didn't know any. Imagine the whites were all different Italians and so forth, but to us, it was just whites. And blacks were just blacks. And there was a few Asians, not too many in the town. A lot of blacks, a lot of Mexicans, but the blacks and the Mexicans kind of lived always close together. But now when I go back to where I live, they're not there anymore. Gentrification just kind of took them to another place. And you have to inherit your house. There's nobody anymore can afford to buy a house. Just buy a house over there. I mean, it's a town for rich people now. So it doesn't really, there's a few, I have some relatives that are still around, but not like a community of relatives, all my uncles or aunts have died. My cousins are here and there, and they didn't have big families, so did the big migration to Arizona, and here I am with half a tribe of kids, big old softball team, and that all the grandchildren, which is, it's kind of my, where I made planted my seeds, so to speak, and I feel very blessed that I have all these, my kids and grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and a place to plant fruit trees, and have a few animals that we harvest, and with a extended community, a family. It's kind of refreshing, Not too many people have a community, so to speak, and we're all related to my kids have relations on the reservation, which is it's kind of cool, but in a lot of ways they're not a lot of people leave the reservation. They kind of stay there, and I'm one of those few that get out and seen places in this world, and then as the more I go, I kind of get more curious about a place. What is the culture? What happened to a place? People migrated, people left, people came in, gentrification, and what's the history of the world? And while I'm a part of this world, I wish I could knew like 4, 5, 6, 7 generations ago what it was like, where people came from. Most people have a diverse background. They would say, some people say, well, I'm 100% a tribe. Yeah, perhaps. But even then, there's probably not such a thing. We were all, even before we were kind of mixed, the tribes were mixed amongst each other. So I think it's really rare to say I'm 100% any tribe. But it's nice being here in Australia. and I didn't know what I was coming here for, who was going to be here, and I have to say it's quite interesting here. Not only the landscape, but the people that are here. You know, I run across a lot of people that came from Malaysia, and people came from all over the world, and they somehow found that Australia is going to they're going to make their home here. People come from Colombia, California, and well, it's a very beautiful place. But you know, I kind of have more. My roots are from Mexico. My grandparents were all from Mexico, and even though I was raised in the United States and California as a young man, and later the majority of my life in Arizona after I was grown up, you know, 40, 50 years in Arizona. But I know where my grandparents came from in Mexico, and I'm not going to live in the exact place where they came from, most likely not, but as my relatives that are there are very distant, but they are there. But still, Mexico is Mexico, and that's where I come from, and it has a lot of, it's rich in culture, it's rich in tradition, and it's refreshing. I spend a good part of my time in Mexico. I reside with my partner in her home in near Mexico City, and then of course I have my home in Arizona where I have my children and I take care of the ranch, the little bit of life. You know, we just have a few turkeys and chickens and the dogs and the cats, and sometimes we raise pigs. Maybe we'll get a horse later just for, just to understand animals, I guess, a little bit more, and the spirit of the horse. I'm just kind of intrigued by that. You know, I've had horses before, but now that I'm retired, I think I have more time to focus on things that I couldn't do before as I was working. You know, as a school teacher, I had very little time to do anything. Now I'm picking up hobbies of the guitar and scuba diving, and that has taken me a big learning curve about whales, about sharks, about fish, about, you know, the coral reefs, the tides, you know, the water is, you know, the global warming. It's kind of understand how it all kind of fits together, and it's just a whole new learning curve for me. My idea when I first did the first dive was I wanted to understand water, but then, okay, I kind of got a little bit of it, but then I wanted more. And the last dive, it was a deep dive, and was in there and down on 100 feet under the water, more than 100 feet, with a flashlight in the sacred water, and thinking, you know, the water is what gives life to plants and human beings, and here I'm in the center of the heart of the spirit of water, which was pretty powerful. You know, there was not a lot of fish or coral reef, but it was water that comes from the earth, where water is born, where water comes out of the earth, and it's there, and not really from rain. It's come from within the earth. So you have water from rain, you have water from springs, and to understand that cycle of water is fascinating. And you know, and then being around people that pray for the water, and women that talk about the water, of like, okay, this is what it's all about. And you know, my efforts in this latter part of my life is to kind of be a catalyst between the teachers and the students, and I'm a little bit of both. I'm a student of water, I'm a teacher of water, but I'm a teacher of culture, I'm a student of culture. So I learn from you and you learn from me, and we exchange each other's knowledge, and we both become better for that, you know. So it's a pretty amazing world, and it's a big world. And I traveled to South Africa and Europe, and somewhere I think, you know, I don't necessarily have a bucket list, but I would like to get to Asia at some point, because I think that's just another root of human beings that come out of Asia. And certainly meeting with a few Aboriginals in Australia was really interesting for me, because I didn't know really who was in Australia. You know, I've heard about them, but I just like, okay, well, but here I actually meet them, and it's I find that they're as all these people that live off the land, they respect the nature, and they're crying out to the rest of us to help us to protect this land, protect the animals, protect a way of living, that we're connected to nature, which is the people that live in the cities. I think they can only intellectualize this in their minds, but they don't have that. I would imagine, I'm not saying they're not connected to nature, but I'm just saying that it's got to be a lot more difficult to connect to nature when you're living in a city. Sidewalks and cars and smog and no place to plant. There's no nature around you. There's a couple of dogs and cats, and that's it.
You were talking before about your farm, and I know that you're an avid gardener. You like to garden, you like to plant food. What has that brought to your life?
Well, since I was a little boy, about 10 years old, maybe even 8, my dad planted, my grandma planted, my mom planted. They planted little stuff. They had a little yard, My dad had a bigger yard. He had a little small cornfield. And I was kind of around that. My dad had chickens, and it was just very natural for me to just grow. I had my own garden that I planted. I planted chilies, tomatoes, radishes, squash, and a little bit of corn, and not a lot of things, but it was the beginning of my life of planting, and I've been planting a long time, and it's the most beautiful thing that I've ever done in my life. Of course, I play guitar, and that's wonderful, great. But I'm always planting. I'm teaching my son to plant, and we just plant every year. We plant all year round. In Arizona, we plant all year round. It's a part of nature. I mean, I'm not like way out in the sticks, but it's somewhere. It's somewhere that connects me to nature. I planted large cornfields. I planted big fields, acres and acres. But I kind of prefer this, without tractors, or without any kind of cultivation equipment, other than a shovel. I kind of it's touch the girth, and that's more exciting than sitting on a tractor. Even though I have done that. But I went to the university, studied, and then after leaving the university, I got more in depth with things that I never learned in the university, and that's a spiritual connection, and it's understanding how all the plants are brothers and sisters to each other's, and how they're all interconnected, and how sometimes you have to plant around a tree or plant in a certain microclimate, and then figure out that it's within the scope of a whole 40-acre field is when the scope of a whole continent, it's when the scope within the whole world, and how it's all connected. And with the birds, the insects, and on and on. It's just it's quite joyful as over the years as I learn more and keep learning more. I'm still somebody say, "Oh, this guy is the master gardener." They say that, but yeah, I had a lot of experience, but I'm still learning. There's always new things to learn, and you're planting, and different plants of the world are all over the place. But then some plants here and all over the world are same. People plant corn all over the world. There's tomatoes all over the world. There's animals all over the world. They fertilize the land. It's all over. There's animals all over the world. So it's really. And some plants are very unique to certain places. There's some plants that are only in Australia that are, there's only some plants in South Africa. But the weird thing is that I go places and I see the same plants in America, same in all over the world, and I always kind of like, well, where do they originate? And sometimes we know, they say the avocados originated from Colombia and Mexico, and I believe they say citrus from Asia, but here on my farm, I've tried to grow avocados. It's not easy because you got to really know what you're doing to grow avocados in Arizona. But citrus is relatively easy, and again, that was not a native tree to Arizona, and many of the fruit trees are not. But we still can. We're never going to be 100% like, oh, this is all from this area. We know which trees and plants are from, but again, over the years, hundreds of years, some of these plants and trees and fruit trees have become a mainstay of people's diets, and they're healthy, and a lot of the natural vegetation has become naturalized. It comes from maybe another part of the world, but that's another thing too. Besides just the farming aspect of life, it's I go out and hunt once in a while, and I just go along with the hunt. I'm not really a hunter, but then there's also fishing, and then there's understanding how to raise animals, and so there's all this interconnection of living within the whole world of we're all, as human beings, we have to eat, and we have to learn how we're going to eat. There's sure much fun to get food off your land and go to the grocery store. And I've been blessed. I mean, going all these places and eating native fish from Australia all over the place, and I think because of that, I think I've been able to have a pretty decent health up to the age that I am, that I've made it this far, and I'm still able to work and do things and travel and live, which is it's a blessing. I'm very fortunate. I pray. I go around and pray for other people, but at the same time, people pray for me, and I of course I have to pray for myself too, because I need help, and I want, with God's blessings, I'm still here, doing my little thing.
Where does your spiritual kind of journey begin? Like, how did you get to where you are?
Well, it's a question that I get asked really all the time. Even my daughter asked me the other day, how did you get to do this, all this? One day I was invited to a sweat lodge when I was a very young man, and I probably was destined for that anyway. I was hanging around with, people were saying, hey, you're native. Well, I'm a Mexican. Well, yeah, but what? But then I started to realize that a Mexican is native, and that started to, figure out that's who I am. And going to the sweat lodge and coming out and jumping into a river was in a place called Frank's Landing in Washington State. And it was pretty neat. You just, we do 4 rounds, and after each round you jump in the river. And, it's like, okay, here's my journey to, reborn into the traditional way. Kept doing sweat lodges, and then started with the Sundance and the peyote, ceremonial ways with the peyote of the Native American Church. That all kind of started happening around the same time, and never realizing that someday that I would be one of the teachers of these ceremonies to, people all over the world. I'm, showing them how to, the ceremonies have they're a little intricate. The songs are a little, some ways, you got to learn the songs. But, the thing that people need to learn is how to pray, how to pray, how to pray for things, and stop thinking about everything else in your world or your daily stress of life, and pray for health, pray for happiness, and talk to God. Don't pray to each other. Pray to God, and make that connection. Using tobacco and cedar and sacred herbs and medicines, and focusing on life and people's needs. You have a love for your people, you love for your children, and you're going to pray for them. And the more people you meet, the more you start praying for more people, and And pretty soon you're praying all the time. But it's a good thing because you say, well, that's a lot of work. People say, well, it's strenuous and takes a lot of time out of you. But it's like exercise, Yes, it's tiring, but you don't get anywhere until you exercise. You don't get anywhere spiritually unless you exercise your spiritual being. You don't get anywhere in your mind unless you exercise your mind. And sometimes, as I was attending the university, it was quite painful. It's like, I don't want to, this is too much information. Like, I don't get it. I can't handle it all. But you bite off a piece of it, and then you understand it. And then you take it to the next level. Okay, you build on that knowledge, and then you can go to the next knowledge and next knowledge. Pretty soon you're in the universal knowledge of knowledge of knowledge. You're in the spiritual being of the spiritual way of life. But you started out in a very simple way, and then you built that structure to, now you have spiritual strength. Now you have mental strength. Now you have physical strength. And those three if you have a balance with those three, you can do some things. You can help people, you can help yourself, help the world. And that's, we can talk all day about, what we got to do. And that's okay. We understand, what we need to do. And we have to take actions, and we have to, yes, we pray, but also just some of the simple things of what are we consuming? What are we consuming? Plastic, electronics, and then do we compost? And I compost every tea bag, every orange peel, every bit of thing, and I think if the world could understand the importance of those kinds of things, we could little by little we could start fixing up the mess that we're in right now, because we're in a hell of a mess because people have cancer and they're not well and they're sick and it's we have a lot of people are born with a lot of stuff, and it's because of the generations of negativeness, and we have to really grab a hold of ourselves and say, enough is enough, be angry at ourselves, be angry at the world if you need to be, but don't, I think you get to the point where maybe at some point you're mad at the governments, you're mad at the white man, you're mad at your neighbors, you're mad at the school, you're mad at whoever you want to be mad at, but you want to garner that energy and make it in a positive way, and don't become a negative person, and become find that way to find goodness in things, and maybe talk to your enemies sometimes. Say, hey, I'm not really what you think I am. Let's forgive and let's go on. Let's talk it over. Let's if I did something wrong, tell me, and let's make amends. Make amends with attempting to make amends with my exes. And hey, some things didn't go right, but we can be cordial to another. We're not going to get married again, but we could be. We don't have to be. Have anger or any animosity towards each other. We can, and those are not easy things to do. The word forgiveness, it's not easy to do, but we have to work on it. If not, it'll kind of fester in you, and then that's when you kind of can get sick. You gotta keep a good vibe within yourself, and spread that good vibe to the world out there, and. I'm working on it, I'm trying to do, I'm not by any means got it all figured out, but I got some things figured out, and that's all I can do, just keep, every day working on that understanding of life, keep that spirit of that fire inside me that says I want to learn, about life, and I want to learn how to be a better person. And it's what makes you get up every morning and move. Yes, I need my coffee sometimes, but hell, I like to drink tea, or I need to eat food, and sometimes I need the rest, and sometimes I like, hey, let's go out and get some stuff done. Let's go out and build something. Let's go out and even sometimes you have to go and say, I'm going to go visit my relatives and say, how are you doing? And sometimes if we get so busy in life, we don't visit our relatives, our neighbors. And I always ask people when they live someplace, do you know your neighbors? And that's pretty amazing that you can live right next to somebody and you don't even know them. You might wave to them in the driveway and that's it. But, I think sometimes we have to go and, become wherever you live, have your neighbors should be a part of your community. Hey, I need, are you going to the store? Maybe you can bring me something, so we're both at the store getting milk or whatever we're going to buy at the store. Hey, if you know what I need at the store, the next time I'll go, it's, cooperation. And when COVID happened, some people started actually doing things better. My people were telling me, hey, you need something at the store. Well, that's nice. Yeah, if you're going to the store already, bring me. These are the 5 things I need in my house. I need a little, and no, I'll bring you what you need. So we're saving, burning gas in a vehicle, or time that we have. Time is valuable. We can certainly find better things to do than rolling a cart around in the grocery store all day long.
Yeah. How would you, people talk about, having like a morning practice.
What?
A morning practice. People may get up and they do they do all kinds of things, meditation and yoga.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But people are can be very strict about it. They can have like a very strict morning practice.
Like morning, like good morning type process, or like a morning of a loss of...
Every morning I get up and I meditate, then I drink this, then I eat this, then I do this. What's like your morning practice?
Oh, well, that's it makes me laugh when I think about it, because it's never the same every morning, but it's somewhere in a combination of, depends how every morning, but one morning I might feed the dogs and cats first, and I might make coffee second. And then I usually, in the morning time, I will burn cedar about every morning and pray for myself, for my relatives, different things that I have to pray for. People always ask me to pray, and even if they don't ask me to pray, I pray for my children, or maybe they're going through something, or my companion, I pray for her. But I usually do that somewhere every day, and it kind of creates, sometimes I might do that first, and then make the coffee, sit around, drink my coffee, then go feed the dogs and cats, So there's, that's, my ritual is not a ritual, my day starts, but those are the things, about every day, the dogs and cats, they got to get fed, and they're outside waiting for me, and they'll let me know I can't walk out that door, because they're going to be right there waiting to get fed. So sometimes I don't go out that door, because like I said, I might pray, make my coffee, I might make myself a little fruit smoothie, and I really don't have a heavy breakfast, and then I go outside, and again, for me, it's part of my meditation. We'll walk outside and look around and say, what's calling me today? Oh, I have to pick up some, clean out the patio, or build something, or then I got to, somewhere in the morning, still got to go out and feed the chickens and the turkeys. And I might have to water some plants, feed the fish, or, there's all kinds of, every day there's something to do. And so and a lot of times in the nighttime, before I think about it, what am I going to do tomorrow? sometimes that plan happens, and sometimes what I thought about the night before, I don't do it because something else calls me. And it's just something I feel. And that's kind of my meditation in a sense, because I get to go out and the dogs and cats follow me around, and I go out and try to make a little difference. And I usually try to work outside. Occasionally, if it's really cold, I might just stay inside and do some work in the house. Or in the summertime, I get up really early and do my work in the morning. I mean, like really, sometimes I get up 4 o'clock in the morning, it's dark, and do all those things that I'm telling you about. And then I'm out at it's still dark outside sometimes when I go outside. But then if it's wintertime, I might just organize things in my house. I have poetry that I have to put together, and I clean my kitchen or something, or I might clean my bathrooms or my bedrooms or the floors of my living room. But always it's just something, and every day there's always something to accomplish. And some old guy, they say sometimes you just make your bed in the morning. That's another thing you do. And there's some days you kind of have an idea of what you want to do, and you get it all done. And you just think like you're like really somebody. I mean, man, you did all this and more. And then some days you think I want to do a bunch of stuff, and you get stuck, and you don't really get much done. But then there's always this thought process that goes through your mind, and sometimes you just, it seems like forever. Sometimes you just sit there and think, and you don't do. But when you think, then when you are really going to do something, it all comes together. It's like you're focused, and everything is. Because sometimes if you just get in a hurry, you don't get shit. You don't get nothing done. So you just let me think about this, and then you make a design of your life. You make a design of. I build. I construct. I design. I mean, just a little place that I got a little wood shop, a little metal shop. I build structures that I add onto my house, make a little bathroom, fix a window, or there's always something to fix. You learn how to fix a cooler, know how to do electricity, and how am I going to organize my tools, my shed, and knowing where all my tools are is, that's, if I got that together, when I'm ready to do my work, I don't have to spend time looking for something. So it's organizing things in my life and being efficient. So my time is efficient. When some visitors come or somebody comes over, I says, okay, well, let's sit down and have a cup of coffee. I have time to sit down with my grandkids. My grandkids come over, I kind of throw everything on the back burner, and I sit down and watch TV with them. And if I don't do nothing else but sit there and watch, as they watch cartoons on the TV, or they play with their puzzles, or they do their coloring, I just sit there and be with them. And that's sort of that's a very meditative process. I just sometimes just sit and be with my grandsons that usually come over every day. And I get visitors, and again, I try to be, when they come over, I try to have food that people can eat, and then, like I said, sometimes I really cook a lot of good food, and I send food to my daughter's house next door, or sometimes I get so busy I don't even eat, because I'm so focused on what I'm doing. And my son comes over, he doesn't even want to talk to me, because, Dad, you look like you're deep in thought. Well, yeah, I am, but, if you want to talk to me, I'll stop for a minute and let's talk about what do you want to talk about. But yeah, sometimes I get, but it's all about focus, and that's a focus on life. I don't know. It's just it could be something very simple like building a shelf to put something in my house. Well, you'd be surprised how many tools you need. You need a drill. You need the right size screws. You need a level. You've got to find the wood. And wood. I got wood all over my house, and I like to use recycled materials. Most everything in my home is through recycled materials, and sometimes I have to throw things away, but I try to recycle everything that I can, and not just take it to a recycle, but I try to like use that. You know, it's where they would say the term is upcycling. Instead of just taking this aluminum or metal to the recycle plant, I'm going to use it myself and make something out of it. And that's one of the most exciting things I like to do, is make something out of junk. Probably somebody laughed at me with what I'm doing, but I'm one of the most resourceful guys around. When I want to build something, I don't think I'm going to go to the lumber yard or to the Home Depot store. I don't think that way. That's my last thing that I think about. If I don't got something, well, I might have to go buy something at the store. But other than that, I can save a lot of money. Sometimes it takes a little bit more to recycle things. I build out of pallets. I build out of, straw. I build out of what's called a papercrete system. I can build out of bottles. I could build out of hay. Whatever's available, I'll build. Sometimes I don't really need to build something, but I'd rather just do something with the stuff than just throw it away. So I'll make a patio. I'll make a walkway.
You're saying before, or you're talking about focus, and you were talking about prayer. How have those two things helped you in difficult moments in your life? That's
a kind of a good question. It brings up a thing where, I've had there's been a few times when I didn't have a job, I didn't have money, and, there's really nothing else I could do. In my most difficult and most downest times, is pray. And I'm telling you, to me it works, because I don't know how I'd be without that. I'm here. I'm not a wealthy man. I've never been focused on making money. I've never had a nice house. I've never had a nice car, but I was able to live in somewhat, what I think, comfortable. I'm able to get from point A to B in my old vehicles. I don't spend all my time just showing off with a new car or a new house. And to your question, I was just, the other thing is, you gotta, be happy with what you got. I mean, there's a lot of people in this world that have a lot worse than I do, and a lot of people died young. A lot of people have more trauma than I do. And so I have to look at the whole world and say, hey, whatever my situation is, it's always been kind of temporary. Since I was a student in the university, it was, how am I going to deal with all, But I overcome that stuff. I overcome obstacles. I overcome where I was kind of homeless. But you overcome those things, and the more things you overcome, after a while, you got experience. You're going to be all right. You lose your job, okay, you're going to figure it out. Your wife, you get a divorce, well, life goes on. You can move on, and you don't just get stuck and stay on depression, stay on the blues. You have it, but you just don't stay there, and you remember it. You remember those really difficult times, those sad moments, those moments of depression, maybe, or if you want to call it that, or moments of sadness, and then you realize, remember the good, happy times too. And then again, whatever your situation is, some people they just don't know how to be happy. And hey, if I got a half glass full of coffee, well, I might be happy about that, but somebody else might be sad because it's half full. Well, so you see your perspective on life, and you have to have I think the simple things in life. I find so much joy. I lived in this place with no electricity, no water, but I could look out from my little view of my window and see the mountains and see the little rabbits running around, and hey, a lot of people don't get that. I see the little rabbits and the rattlesnakes. I never, don't want to get bit by a rattlesnake, but if you don't bother them, they never bothered me. And they lived all around my house, and lizards, and you name it. I was the nature all around me, and it's like on a vision quest every day. And where I live now, again, it's a little different. There's a road nearby, but still, I have my garden, and then even then, I don't need to get away from it all. I'm not like, oh, on the weekend I got to go travel someplace, but I don't have to. Where I'm at, I don't need to get away from nothing. But sometimes I get invited to go to places, and I say, okay, I'll pack my bags, and I don't like the airports, but sometimes you got to get to some place, and you got to jump on an airplane, and I have friends. I have good friends in Mexico, Colombia, now in Australia. I have some friends in Africa that I met years ago. We're still friends. But that's a beautiful thing, when you have friends, geez, you got family and friends, what else is there? Again, back to the same thing. If you're sitting there somewhere, or your car's broken down and you're still stranded someplace, but there's people will help you. I've had people, I've been out stranded on the road, and people will say, hey, here's we'll pick you up and take you to and we'll give you, they give you money. And so I have found that in my travels that people can be pretty helpful. You're without gas, they give you gas. You're without money, they give you money. And in turn, when I'm out in the world, I see somebody who needs a little help, I'll try to give them a little help. They give somebody food on the street, or whatever. Makes them feel good, I feel good, and we can be happy. Happy that we're. It's a wonderful thing to give sometimes. It's a wonderful thing to get. When you ain't got no money and somebody gives you $20 so you can put gas in your car to get to home, whew, man, that's it always surprises me, but amazes me that despite this world can be very cruel, there's also a lot of super beautiful things in this world that we can be happy about. So you just got to, I don't know, maybe my dad taught me, maybe my parents raised me so that not to give up. I don't know what it is, but I'm just not a person to just roll over and feel sorry for myself and give up. I pray and I know I have confidence in myself that I'll figure it out. And sure there was some times I'm like, I don't know how to figure it out, but again, focus. Okay, this is how you build something. This is how you talk to somebody. This is how you get from here to over there. So it's quite fun when you figure out some things. And of course, the more you figure it out, the better you get at it.
Mm. We talked about the medicine before, like peyote medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can expand a bit on what is that medicine? What has it done for you?
Well, again, a lot of the people that don't know anything about this, the peyote, they don't know. They think about all these things as a way to get high. But and I've been using this medicine for maybe 50 years, and it's a matter of when I use these medicines, I kind of get in touch with myself. I look at myself and say, what do I have to do in this life? And there's a number of messages that, besides, there's many messages, but some of the things that always come back to me is know where I'm coming from, know my roots, know the traditions, and I had to research where my ancestors came from, and that's been pretty fun for me. And the next thing is one of the messages that I'm okay. I'm a good person. I'm not a bad person. And there's two things that if I find that spiritual companion, that companion that I can how would you say that I find that is connected to the kind of person that I am and accepts me for who I am. And then at the same time, I've had a number of relationships, and I also know that, hey, I could be happy either way. And but the medicine again is it helps me to understand what are the important things in life. Sometimes, you get all busy and busy, and I've had jobs, I had to work, and as it come to the weekend, I'm pretty tired. But then people ask me to go to ceremonies or ask me to have a ceremony, and I use this medicine, and I think about, I'm able to focus on all I think of my life, and I think of the songs that I sing that are for children. I sing the songs to uplift myself and uplift the people. And I think that the medicine helps you do that. And so you have these instruments, you have this drum, you have this rattle, and maybe the sounds of that beat uplifts us. And we all need uplifting, say, hey, life is hard, sometimes we don't have things. And we need to uplift ourselves. If Christians they say they do that, well, good. I'm glad they're doing that. If they're uplifted, then they go and sing in their churches and have an organ or guitar. Well, wonderful. But our traditional instruments use the drum and the rattle, and outside of that, I still play the guitar. It's a sound. There's instruments all over the world before the guitar, but there was always a drum. But there's sounds. There are sounds that take us to that go along and with our prayers, and it comes into this wonderful place of feeling that and originally the way they say that this medicine came to Native people when there was nothing to eat and there was no food, and they used this medicine and they felt hope that, hey, there is going to be food, and there is going to be a herd of buffalo. There is going to be some hunts that animals that we can go and get before the panic of facing starvation. But this peyote said, eat me, pray with me, and things will come for you. And that's what we're doing today. We're praying for people to get well, people that have a way of living. And it works. I've been praying a long time, and the prayers don't come overnight. You pray today, you're not going to, everything's going to be perfect tomorrow. It's like you keep working on it after years and years. Okay. I'm one of the most, I feel very fortunate, with a big fortune I have is I'm alive right now. I'm alive. I'm here. And a lot of people never got that far. And I'm not saying that it's because they didn't pray. Because I know a lot of our spiritual leaders died young, but they did what they did. And they did, you live your life and you do what you can. And, some people are just able to do more. And some people like myself, maybe I just need more time to do things. I have more things to do. And one of these days I'll be able to say, hey, I've just about done everything I can do. And now it's my time. It's my time to check in and let the next generation take over. But the thing that I have to figure out is how to inspire them before my time is up. And I have to continue to do that, inspire my children and people. Say, hey, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. We're here for you. And a lot of people they get stuck. Okay, let's pray, let's do a ceremony, but get out of that spot so you can go on. And so it's happened to me. I mean, I've had people pray for me, and had ceremonies for had medicine man, road mans come and pray for me, and I was having difficult times. I kept praying, and I got through those hard times with this prayer. So there's certainly some times when I'm like, man, this is too difficult of a way to continue. I'm going to rest, and I did rest for some years. I wasn't attending, but it called me back. The medicine called me back. My relative said, come back and pray with us. Come back and pray with us. We want you to come and pray. I had an older brother who said, come back and pray. I said, okay. So I set about and try to remember how to sing songs. And then here I am again, going places that I never thought I would go, going having ceremonies of all places in Australia. That I would never ever imagine that I would be praying along with people. But people here, everybody's on a journey too. People are on a spiritual journey all over the place. And I'm okay, so I just get to go over here and kind of assist them in their journey. Everybody's on a journey. I used to just have ceremonies only back on the reservation and just pray with our people. But the first time they said, "Hey, come to Chicago," and I thought, well, that's really weird. That's not my home. But my older brother said, "Come on, let's go." So I said, "Okay." We went over there and got an airplane, and at that time I didn't go anywhere in an airplane. They paid for our ticket, and we went to Chicago, and we made some prayers, and then went about life. And then some years later, they asked me to come back again, and then again and again, and now I have some really nice people I pray with in Chicago, people I pray with in Mexico, people I pray with in Colombia, and now Australia. I don't know where else I'll go. Again, I still have my family, and I'm not trying to be, do this every day full time, so to speak. I have things that I want to do at home. I like to write. I like to spend time with my kids. I'm, again, like a wood crafter, play guitar. I did a movie one time. I probably, if it happens, I'll do another movie. Do documentaries, try to be a little more creative than as much as possible. And it's kind of fun. I mean, learning the guitar, I'm going to learn the flute, learn all the musical instruments, because once you find the key of knowledge into something, it becomes a whole interconnection of knowledge that you could get. But your foundation starts somewhere. If you're going to build a house, first you got to learn how to use a saw. My dad, they never had electric tools, they had hand saws, and I learned how to do those things when I was a little boy. And I had my brothers come and help, "Hey, how do you build this? How do you do this? How do you do that?" And then they showed me, and I said, well, now, I learned how to do electrical, I learned plumbing. I can build a house. I can build a house from the bottom up to the top. I can design it, I can figure it out, I can do it. But I don't build houses for people, I build my own. But I guess once I was little, when I was first married, I was intrigued by the idea of building a house. Okay, at that time, I didn't know how to do all this. But again, I had my brothers. I had a couple brothers. And my brother-in-law, they started showing me how to again, advance my technique of woodworking, advance my technique of building. Same thing, I'm sitting here practicing the guitar, and this my friend comes over, and here's a couple of things I can show you. Oh, okay, I've learned a few more things. And I build from that, and build from that, and build from that, and then pretty soon you know kind of a lot of things. First I knew 3 chords, 4 chords, and I didn't know how to play them very well. Maybe now I know 50 chords. Not real well, but I know how to play 50 different chords. That's kind of a lot for considering maybe not that many, maybe 30 or something, I don't know. But certainly much more than, I've attained. Again, I started very simply, and then all of a sudden, okay, let's do the next thing. I think that goes for everything. Whether you're whatever you do, if you're a yoga teacher, you're going to get better at it. You're a painter, you're going to get better at it. You're a movie maker, you're going to get better at it. If you do what you do, then you get the experience.
What about life?
Huh?
Life. Do you think you get better?
Life?
Yeah. As you get more experience, do you get better at it?
I think so.
If you start figuring it out,
I definitely think I was pretty dumb at 20 years old. I was not very much brighter at 30. 10 years ago, I was still doing some stupid shit. I probably did some stupid shit yesterday, but I think I'm doing less as I'm older.
What would be some advice, maybe if we could bring all this together, some kind of final words for people out there, advice about life, for someone who's lived like a long life in a lot of different fields, and someone who has lived a lot with indigenous elders and, with different medicines and ceremonies, like what would be, like a good word you could offer to people?
Practice. You might make a house and the wind will blow it down, but now you know what the wind did, you know what happened, you know where you made your mistakes. Practice and focus. Think. And I go to sleep at night and I think, how am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? How am I going to? And in the middle of the night, I'll figure it out. I go to bed thinking, how am I going to do? What am I going to do? But it's focus. In the middle of the night, the answers come to me. Middle of a prayer, the answers come to me. And don't give up. I mean, I'm not like some sort of super talented musician, some sort of genius or know something. I'm not smart, but I study. I practice, I read, I ask, I observe so that I could, I'm not going to, like there's these guys that say, oh, well, they're the most famous architects of the world. Well, I'm never going to be that. Fine, I'm not trying to be. But if I can make a functional house, fine. But the really kind of sad thing is the age that I am, I now kind of figured out how to build a house. Again, when I was young, I didn't know how to do these things, didn't know how to do a lot of things. But you just don't be afraid of failure. Practice, and focus. Focus is don't get distracted by the wrong things. Don't get distracted by alcohol. Don't get distracted by drugs. Don't get don't get distracted by parties thinking that's a great, hey, if you want to drink a beer and have a pizza, that's wonderful if you want to do that. But if you waste your life with alcohol and drugs, I don't know. I think it's going to be a rough. You're taking the hard path of life, and I think if you some of the most simplest things is, get off the couch, work. Don't be afraid to work. Work is good. Work is good. You're going to get tired at the end of the day. It's okay. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to have sore muscles. It's okay to your brain be tired. It's okay for your body to be tired. It's okay if you've been praying so you're tired from praying so much. But your prayer is like a muscle. Your mind is like a muscle. Your body's a muscle. If you practice and you use those things, it'll get better for you. Your muscles will get stronger. Your mind, your spiritual way will get stronger. And that at the end of your life, at the end of your day, you can say, geez, I did something good today. I did something good this morning. Last year was a good year. I did this. Last week I was able to finish. I know how to sing a song now. I know how to figure out how to make that piece of furniture. Now I know how to run the plumbing or the electricity or how to construct that roof on my house. But like I said, I built some things that didn't work very well. But now I know. So don't be afraid of failure. Focus, practice, and you'll be rewarded by it. You'll feel good at the end. Again, just the end of a day or end of a project. It's a good feeling to accomplish something. It's a good feeling to accomplish that. You talked to somebody and you made their day better. You greeted somebody out in the street and they were happier today because you just said hello. You gave them a little nod. You made your wife happier today. You made your kids happier today. If they're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, I like that. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you for being out here in Australia.
Been a blast.
It's been good.
It's been a blast. I'm not sure when I'll get back, but I'd like to. It's been a blast, but at the same time, I'm anxious to get home too. Yeah. So thank you for having me here, hosting me and taking care of me, and I've enjoyed myself here. The hospitality, the people in Australia are very nice. I mean, everywhere, coffee shops. Again, there's probably some people that wonder who I am and probably look at me like very curiously, like, you know, who's this Indian guy here? His hair's messed up, and my clothes are not what they expect or whatever. I don't know, but I get some looks, and I get those looks everywhere because I'm a little different than the average person walking on the street, which is, I accept that. But again, I find that people here in Australia are very kind, and just about everywhere I go, people are very kind. Colombia, Mexico, back home, maybe some places are more friendly than the others. I think that I find that overall the Australian people would be very friendly people, and it feels good to be here. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, well, thanks very much, Ed, and safe travels back to the States. And yeah, look forward to catching up very soon.
Okay, do it again. Thank you.
Somos la vida, somos la luna, la estrella y el mar.